What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast. We talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers, the shakers, and glass ceiling breakers. Those people of color have made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? So welcome to the daily podcast, just about. So Monday and Tuesday are our topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursday's Ask a CISSP, where I do interviews with people in the industry, sometimes outside the industry, but it's kind of adjacent to cybersecurity. And then Friday's everything else, movies, books, games, all that cool stuff. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from Reuters.com by Raphael Satter. And the title of this one is, In Last Minute Reversal, U.S. Agency Extends Support for Cyber Vulnerability Database. Okay, so for those of you that are in the know, what they're talking about is the CVE database that's managed by MITRE. Okay, MITRE, big contractor in DoD. They do a lot of work. They're especially prevalent over in the DMV area, right? DC, Maryland, Virginia area, very big over there. But they have this thing that's called a Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures Database, right? CVE. And for as long as I can remember, right? I've been doing this for a few years now, 1 or 2 years, right? That's a joke. That's sarcasm for those of you that can't tell. For a few, I can remember the CVE database doing something that even when I was active duty military and even in the world I'm in now, being retired, something that is heavily utilized. And apparently, and I was not really tracking this, apparently there was a point where under the current administration, they were just going to do away with it. They weren't going to re-up to have it maintained. And this is something that is used across the board. Like, this isn't just in DoD, right? You can go and look this up, and it's got every, let me not say every vulnerability you can think of, right? Because I don't want to assume that everything is being tracked on there, but it is a very helpful tool. I've been on contracts before where they tie contract deliverables to doing things in the CVE database, but they re-upped it for another year. But what's kind of not good about this, I almost said a swear word. I'm trying to keep myself PG here, right? What's kind of sucky about this is that this is tied to a lot of stuff, and this is one of the things that, like I said, people use this as the basis for doing different types of patching and remediation for things that are out there, and just being made aware of what's going on. I even have it, like, to this day, there's some stuff I subscribe to where I see, what's going on with CVE and what can happen. But again, so much has been tied to it. But the fact that it's going away has been avoided, at least for the next 11 months, right? But the fact that it's tied to MITRE and tied to one entity like this, they've started to plan going forward to say, hey, we need to make it to where it's not tied to a contract that is paid out through DoD. Like, let's try to make it to where it's more of a non-profit funded, and if whatever organization decides they don't want to use it, it doesn't have to go away, right? It's kind of like the uniforms in the military, right? When somebody says they don't want to wear a specific uniform that everybody else is wearing, right? You don't have to worry about everybody rushing at the last minute. But the fact that they've got it going for another 11 months, that's good, but I think there will need to be a way forward. And they've talked about starting up this thing called the CVE Foundation, or they've started up the CVE Foundation for the CVE program, right? So that if for whatever reason the government decides, okay, we're not going to fund this anymore, or have MITRE do this foundation, they've been established to keep long-term stability and viability of this program going on, right? What's your thoughts on this, Ryan?
I was actually looking to see how much it costs the government, because I'm like, how much does this cost the government to keep running? Has been reported to be roughly $30 million since 2023, with a potential increase of $40 million in the last contract year. The program itself is free of use, so I'm still a little confused. Like, I guess maybe it's just keeping the lights on, keeping the database running. I don't know why it will cost so much, but it's used by the entire world.
Yeah, it is used by the entire world, but MITRE has been put on contract to do it, right? But they put it out there free to use for everybody. So MITRE is providing the bodies to do the studying for this stuff because, like, if you look at the CVEs, when you go in there and look, they get very in detail about stuff that's in these vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Because at limited use, right? Like, I know of it through like when I was actually like you, we would get a lot of information from your team, right? They would tell us like, hey, listen, you got to do a bunch of stigs or patches on the following devices because of CVE, blah, 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 blah. So that was mostly my exposure to it until now when I'm out and I use it for research, basically, for the show. Like, okay, this new CVE is out and it might actually impact people, but still not into CVSS or HBSS or anything like that. Like that vulnerability piece is not necessarily what I do on a day-to-day basis, but I understand how important it is. But I was just like, how much can it cost? But apparently, tens of millions of dollars is what it costs. And the last time we really talked about it was we were talking about the hopeful evolution of the process. Not that they're doing anything wrong, but just our use of CVE. Like the database just continues to grow, right? And it's hard for people to maintain their vulnerability and patch management to a certain extent. Like if you're a mom and pop, you might not have the person to pay, or you might not have the experience to do so. So how can AI augment that, right? And I think we were talking about an article where hopefully in the future, I'm trying to remember, like, so part of this is potentially my memory bias and as well as what I would like for the future to be. Because when we were talking about like the potential for AI agents or some kind of governance where it'll go and say, hey, these are the devices you have, these are vulnerabilities you potentially have, and I will go and seek through the database what you could potentially be exposed to, because a lot of people forget about log4 or log4j, whatever you want to call it, WannaCry, Heartbleed, like these big vulnerabilities that are still out there, right? They still persist, but they're in the database. So how many other ones are in the database that are still persisting? Because it could be used for nefarious reasons as well, right? Like people can look in the database to find potential vulnerabilities that they can then try to use on, as bad actors. Because I know pen testers also look at it to, kind of get their toolkit ready before they do a white box, black box, or gray box type situation. So it's very, very interesting. I'm glad that it's still running, but I'm really surprised that it has not already been diversified, right? Like how it's only one entity. Like obviously MITRE probably came up with it. Or so I know CVSS came from, oh man. So I know Verizon came up with that. So I wonder how much of their hand was in MITRE creating this. But probably it was all MITRE for all I know, right? MITRE attack framework and all the other good stuff. I'm just really, really surprised it has not already spun out to a nonprofit, which this one was reached out to in the article and they did not comment back. So I'm just like, do you really exist? Are you a real thing?
So the link they reference in the article says that they have stood it up, but like again, this is just based off recent things that have happened. This database has been going on for years, man. Like,
Right,
you
decades.
know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is not something new, and I think it's just a matter of comfort. You know what I mean? For MITRE, like, oh, we know. This is something that's so widely utilized that it's just they're going to keep re-upping it, and the price goes up, right? Because you hire the people to perform these
Hmm.
functions to go through this database, like their value goes up, right? So every I
Yeah,
don't know,
very true.
I'm gonna say 3 years, 5 years, whatever it may be, when they go and re-up for this contract or whatever, they're probably like, okay, well, this is what it costs now, right? Who
Yeah.
else you gonna get to do it?
Right, right. So I'm glad they listened to reason, but I think in the next 11 months they have to come up with a new plan because you just never know how politics affect everything. So the entire world was dependent on this database, and they almost sunsetted it just because they're going for cost cutting measures and things of that nature. So hopefully they figure out some way of spinning it out to protecting it, so to speak, right? Because there's certain entities like Congressional Library. What's the one I'm forgetting off the top of my head? The one that makes sure they have a copy of the internet.
Library of Congress or something like that sort of thing,
Is
right?
this is that in the Library of Congress as well?
Congress, I think, is where it's at. I thought maybe not.
Yeah, but there's certain things that we have to keep running, and you just can't control politics all the time, right? And it's second and third order effects. So I think this needs to be spun out as well, just to protect us for the future. Because then they're gonna be like, oh well, we should just create another one. No, we don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes it's cool, but in this case, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type situation. And I can't really find too many cons, except for now it costs a lot. It's pretty top heavy.
But here's the thing: even at that cost, like we have to think of where it is, what it's woven into, and the purpose that it serves, right? Like I hate to say the cost of doing business, right? Because that's not what the federal government is or what the DoD is. It's not a
Right,
business, right? Despite what people may think. But even so, like even when we have like IAVAs, IAVs, right? IAVBs, that stuff ties back to the CVEs, right? Like it's not like it's wholly a different thing altogether, right? You'll
right.
go look through the IAVAs or IBMs and you'll see, oh, ties to CVE, blah 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 blah. So like we're so entrenched in it, and it does serve a good purpose. It is not wasteful. Is the thing, right? It's not like this is wasteful spending that
Right.
the current administration is seeking out.
Yeah, and it's always good to have things that are under our purview, right? So this is owned by America. in this way. But when you do things like this, like you scare people into the 11th hour, then that's when they start to diversify. Like we right now we still own the internet pretty much, right? All the major nodes are here in the States. We own IP addressing. We own, in this case, CVEs. Like these are things that we can use. We own GPS, even though that's starting to spin out to obviously Starlink. China has its own version as well, just in case it hits the fan, right? But it's good to have these things because we can use it to our advantage in case things go down. But I digress. We'll see. We'll see. Like maybe China will make their own. Maybe Russia will make their own. In this case, and then there'll be a bifurcation of the CVE database to a certain extent. So I don't know, but I'm glad they saved it. At least 11 months we go sigh of relief until we determine if we need to panic again as things shift. But thank you for listening to the podcast again. Monday, Tuesday are topics. Wednesday discussion. Thursdays ask CISSP. I had two really good ones previously done. One with Mark Christian, another one with Alfredo Nash, and then I have another one coming up, but I haven't even edited it yet, so I'm not gonna promise it this week. And then Fridays everything else, movies, books, games, all that cool stuff. We talk about more recent things like Sinners just dropped, F movie just dropped. So I saw both of those. So I love to talk about those on Friday. Hit up all the websites to go by our name, The Other Side Firewall, The Other Side the FW, or Ask a CISSP. Hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. You can find me pretty much everywhere, but LinkedIn is where I'm most active. Stay safe, stay secure.